بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. I would like to welcome all of you. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. I just would like to welcome you in this Management 301 Principles of Management class for my undergrad. And today is September 2020, special day. And today we are going to be discussing manager as a decision maker. And this is chapter 6 from this Pearson management book. And today we are going to go into the second part of the book, which is the planning. And before we go into the planning, or actually with the planning process, we are going to look into the manager as a decision maker. Because manager, in fact, he is nothing more than resource allocator and decision maker. And this decision-making process takes a lot of aspects that we have to consider, and we will discuss as we go along in the in this chapter. Okay. Now, decision making usually have policies, rules, and procedures. Policies, rules, and procedures. Okay. Now, decision making is there are two types, structured and unstructured. And unstructured. Decision making, we have two also type, programmed and programmed. Decision making, whenever you take, there are quantum of certainty and uncertainty, and in between there is a risk involved with any decision making process. Okay. There is linear type of thinking, and there is non-linear thinking. Okay. There is also decision making could be simple and could be complicated. And could be complex. There are two types, rational model and bounded rational model. And there is also administrative type of decision making, and there is also the intuition. And whenever you make decisions, there are biases or error. Biases or error. when you take decisions, okay? And there is directive and analytical conceptual behavior. Directive or analytical. Therefore, these are all type of decision making, just to let you know how, or for you to appreciate how the decision making as a process is. Now, manager is decision maker and resource allocator. Very good. So much for the introduction. This is just to let you know. This is to let you know how is the decision making as a process is not easy. Is very. It involves so many factors. Okay, that as we go along, we are going to go through them. Now, the decision making process. Decisions making a choice from two or more alternatives. Decision-making process, identifying a problem and decision criteria and allocating weight to each criteria, and developing, analyzing, and selecting the alternative that can resolve the problem. Implementing the selected alternative and then evaluating the decision effectiveness. Okay, let's take a situation. This is the following situation. Sarah is a sales manager who reps needs new laptops because their old ones are outdated and inadequate for doing their job. To make it simple, assume that it is not economical to add memory to the old computer, and it is the company policy to purchase, not to lease. Okay? And these are the decision-making process. You started by identifying the problem. My sales representatives needs a new computer. Identifying the decision criteria, memory and storage, display quality, battery life, warranty, and carrying weight. These are the criteria that I have to consider when I purchase a new computer. Now, allocation of weight criteria. My most important thing is my memory storage. This takes 10 points. Battery life, second important, take 8 points. Carrying weighs 6 points. Warranty, 4 points. And display quality, 3 points. Now, development of alternatives. We have the Toshiba, HP, Sony, another type of Toshiba, Dell, Apple, Gateway, and Lenovo. Analysis of alternative. We analyze according to these criteria that we requested and their weights. We have Toshiba. Again, we have to choose among these, the Toshiba, the HP, the Sony, and the Apple, the Dell, and the Lenovo. And then selection of the criteria. After we apply this, we find that the Toshiba is the most appropriate according to our criteria. Implementing of the alternative, we buy the Toshiba and then evaluate of the decision's effectiveness. Now, let's go one by one. Step one, okay? Step one, identifying the problem. Problem identification. Problem identification, discrepancy between existing and desired state of affairs. That's the problem. Usually, if you define your problem correct, then you are almost half of the way. Most of the problem that we face that we don't know how to define our problem. Therefore, unless you know how to define your problem well, then you might end up with the wrong solution or right solution for the wrong problem. Okay? Therefore, problem identification is very, very important. Characteristic of the problem. A problem becomes a problem when a manager becomes aware of it. Sometimes you have a problem and you are not aware that there is a problem. Okay? There is a pressure to solve this problem, and the manager must have an authority, information, or resources needed to solve the problem. It's very important. Okay, therefore, problem definition is very important, or the first important aspect of decision-making process. Identifying decision criteria. Step number 2, which is decisions criteria are factors that are important or relevant to resolving the problem, such as cost that will be incurred, investment required, or risk likely to be encountered, chances of failure, outcomes that are desired, growth of the firm. So this is step number 2. We'll go into step number 3, allocation, weight to the criteria. This is allocation, step number 3, weight of the criteria. Decision criteria are not of equal importance. Sometimes manager have more important aspects to consider when they solve a problem. Okay, assessing weight to each item, place the item in the corrective priority order of the importance in the decision-making process. Now, what do you mean by that? That I give weight. For me as a manager, or for Sarah, most importantly is the memory and the storage. She gave 10 points as a weight. Then the battery life, she gave 8 points. Then the carrying weight, she gives 6 points. Warranty, 4. Display quality, 3. Therefore, these are the criteria that should be considered when they buy a new computer for Sarah sales team. Identifying viable alternatives. Alternatives are listed without evaluation that can be resolved the problem. What alternative do we have? Okay, then appraising, step number 5, analysis of the alternative, appraising each alternative strengths and weaknesses. An alternative appraisal is based on the ability to resolve the issue identified in step 2 and 3. I have to buy a computer that will resolve my problem and will be fit also to the it will fit my needs as a sales manager. Now, these are for each computer, memory for the Toshiba 10, these are the weights. For battery life 3, for carrying weight 10, for warranty 8, and display quality 5. For the Sony, okay, it is 7, 8, 7, 8, 7. Now, we bring each computer and we give the weight according to that importance, according to that computer specification, okay? Now, choose best alternative, step number 6, choosing the best alternative. The alternative with a highest total weight is chosen. By multiplying that weight for each computer's specifications, we can get the These are the memory storage, for the 10 by 10 is 100 for the Toshiba, and the battery life he gets 24, and carrying weight 60, and warranty 32, and display quality he get 50. We get this number from where? From the weights times the specification for each computer. Okay, the Sony, for instance, is 70, 64, 42, 32, 21, 2229. Then we go to the highest. Okay, the highest is 232. Their total for the Toshiba 231, and Dell 231, then HP 232, 231, and 29. And the highest is 249 for Toshiba Cosimo. Okay, and Lenovo had 206. Therefore, our decisions based on weight we give according to our importance and the weights assigned to this computer specification. We do the multiplication, we get this matrix, and we get a figure, which is the highest, we choose it. Okay. Step 7, putting the chosen alternative into action, conveying the decisions to and gaining commitment from those who will carry out the decision. Okay. And step number 8, evaluating decision effectiveness. The sounds of the decisions is judged by its outcomes. How effectively was the problem resolved by outcomes resulting from the chosen alternative? If the problem was not resolved, what went wrong? Now, manager making decisions, okay? Manager making decisions all the time. We say that managers is nothing more decision maker and resource allocator. These are the managers. He is nothing more than resource allocator and decision maker. Okay. Decision making is a part of all 4 managerial functions: planning, organizing, leading, controlling. In fact, that is why we say that decision making is the essence of management, because it involves all the steps of managerial function. You have to make decisions when you plan, when you organize, when you lead, when you control. When you control, you always make decisions. And that is why managers, when they plan, organize, lead, and control, are called decision maker. Okay. Now, in the planning decision making, managers may make planning, organizing, leading, controlling, and they make all kind of decisions. Okay. In the planning, what type of decision they made? What are the organization's long-term commitment? What strategies will best achieve those objectives? What should the organization's short-term objective be? How difficult should individual goals be? These are all part of the planning. In the organizing, how many employees should I have reporting directly to me? How much centralization would there be in the organization? How should job be designed? When should the organization implement a different structure? In leading, how do I handle employees who appears to be low in motivation what is the most effective leadership style in a given situation? How will a specific change affect worker productivity? When is the right time to stimulate conflict? And controlling what activities in the organization need to be controlled. How should those activities be controlled? When is a performance deviation significant? What type of management information system should the organization have? Therefore, manager make decisions during the planning process, organizing process, leading process, controlling process, and we brought several examples of these type of decisions. Making decision rational. We talked about rational model and bounded rational model. And we talked about intuition and administrative type of decisions, okay? Rationality, managers make consistent value maximizing choice with specified constraints. Assumptions are that decision maker are perfectly rational. We assume that the manager, whenever he makes decision, he is always rational. He's perfectly rational, fully objective and logical. We assume that he have carefully defined the problem. We assume that he defined the problem well and identify all viable alternatives. We assume that he have a clear and specific goal. He know what he wants, okay? And we assume that that he will select the alternative that maximize outcome in the organization interest rather than his own personal interest. Making decision bounded rational. Okay, we talked about the bounded rational model. Okay, or bounded rationality. Bounded rationality says that managers make decisions rationally, but are limited. Limited or bounded by their ability to process information. Maybe you want to have the best computer available in the market, and that computer, for instance, let's say Apple, but you are bounded because you have limited budget. Okay, therefore, bounded rational model, you have less than the best. Okay, you play with or you work with whatever you have. Okay, assumption are that decisions maker will not seek out or have knowledge of all alternatives sometime. Okay, and they will suffice or choose the first alternative encounter that satisfactorily solve the problem rather than maximize the outcome of their decisions by considering all alternative and choose the best. And influence on decision making. Escalation of commitment and increase commitment to a previous decisions despite evidence that it may have been wrong. Sometimes you already pay for studies for a project, and there is escalation commitment, and you pay more and you pay more, and you feel that you are paid so much that you don't want to go back and redo the whole thing again. This is what we mean by escalation of commitment. Okay, and you end up with outdated projects. That project has been designed in the 80s, and until they come the commitment for them in the 90s or the after 5 years, 6 years, that project or that airport or that is totally out of date. You might want to reconsider and just do. You have to be careful for that escalation of commitment. Sometimes they stick to that, and the victim, the project itself, become the victim, so that it will be outdated. Okay, so especially with the mega projects. Okay, that takes long time or long decisions to execute. Intuitive decisions making decisions on the basis of experience, feeling, and accumulated judgment, can complement bounded rational decision. This is usually with the consultant who has experience, that they can, out of their experience, they can complement the rational decision making because they have that experience. This is very nice description of the intuition. What is intuition? Intuition is experience based on decisions, that you went through so many experience that you have a good feeling about what the right decision to be taken. Managers make decisions based on their past experience. Affect initiated decisions. Managers make decisions based on feeling or emotions. Cognitive-based decisions, these managers make decisions based on skills, knowledge, and training. Intuition, subconscious mental processing. Managers use data from subconscious mind, help them to make decisions. Intuition, the value or ethics-based decisions. Managers make decisions based on ethical values or culture. Type of decision, we have structure problem, and we have program decisions. Structure, we have involve goals that are clear, are familiar, have occurred before, are easily and completely defined. Information about the problem is available and complete. Structure program is well-defined problem, like doing a purchase, purchasing order for something at your company. It's well structured, it's been done before. It's not, that difficult. You just follow the steps. It's called structure. Program decision is repetitive decisions that can be handled by routine approach. Again, okay, program, a series of decisions that sometimes you take programmed without even thinking about it. That it's been done before, and it doesn't need any. It's almost programmed. It's just you do it without even thinking about it. Okay. Type of decisions, we have procedure, rules, policy. Procedure, rules, policies. Okay. A series of interrelated steps. The procedure, what is it? A series of interrelated steps that a manager can use to respond, applying a policy to a structured problem. For example, accept all customer returns merchandise. This is policy, procedure. Rules, an explicit statement that limit what manager or employee can or cannot do. For example, manager must approve all refunds over $50. No credit purchases are refunded for cash. This is rule. Policy, a general guideline for making a decisions about structured problem. Give them guideline. For example, follow all the steps for completing merchandise return documentation. Type of decisions, okay? We have structure, we have unstructured problem again, and non-programmed decisions. We talk about structure and the program. Now we talk unstructured and unprogrammed, non-programmed, okay? Unstructured problems that are new or usual or unusual, and for which information is ambiguous or incomplete. You don't have enough information. Okay, problem that will require custom-made solution. Non-programmed decisions that are unique and non-occurring, doesn't happen all the time. Decisions that generate unique responses. Just opposite to the structure and program. Now, Programmed versus non-programmed decisions. Programmed, non-programmed. These are the characteristics. Type of program. For the program, structured, while the non-programmed unstructured. Managerial level, lower level, programmed, and programmed upper level. Frequency, repetitive routine, while non-programmed, new and unusual. Okay. Information, readily available, while the non-programmed, ambiguous or incomplete. Goals, clear and specific, while non-programmed is vague. Time frame solution, short, while non-programmed relatively long. Solution relies on the program decision, procedure, rules, policies, while non-programmed judgment and creativity or even intuition. Decision-making conditions, certainty, uncertainty. We have certainty, uncertainty, and the risk lay in between these two, okay? Certainty is a situation in which a manager can make an accurate decisions because the outcome of every alternative choice is known. While the risk, a situation in which the manager is able to estimate the likelihood or probability of outcomes that result from the choice of a particular alternative. Example, expected value for revenues from additional of one ski lift. In the ski resort, they use this ski lift. Therefore, the revenue will exceed 850,000 if there is a heavy snowfall. However, the probability of having a snowfall is 0.3. The expected value is 725,000 if it is normal snowfall, and the probability 50-50 chance, 0.5. If there is a light snowfall, the expected revenue 350,000 and the probability is 0.2. By multiplying the numbers by the probabilities, we get the expected value for each alternative. This is the way how do we define alternatives, and we could find that the best alternative is when is a normal snowfall, okay, with 50-50 chance, and then there is a Allahu Akbar, 362,500 $362,500. صدق الحق. طيب. Decision making conditions. Uncertainty, okay. Limited information, prevent estimation of outcomes, probabilities for alternatives associated with the problem, and may force managers to rely on intuition, hunches, and gut feeling. Decision making style, we have linear thinking style, non-linear thinking. Okay, linear thinking style, we discuss it here and now we'll explain it. Linear, non-linear thinking, okay. Linear thinking style, a person preference for using external data and facts and processing this information through rational, logical thinking. Why the non-linear thinking style, a person's preference for internal source of information and processing this information with internal insight, feeling, and hunches. We talked about the error or biases, okay? Biases or error when we make any decisions. And these are very interesting, okay? When we make decision, we tend to make error. decision-making error and biases: overconfidence, immediate gratification, anchoring effect, selective perception, confirmation, framing, availability, response, representation, randomness, sunk cost, self-serving, hindsight. What do you mean by these terms of the decision-making error? Okay. Heuristic, using rule of thumb to simplify decision making. Sometimes try to use the rule of thumb and try to make it so simple, okay? And this is an error. Overconfidence bias, holding uncertainly, unrealistically positive views of oneself and one's performance. We think that this manager is superhero. He's always good. It's not necessarily. Therefore, that's could be overconfidence, okay? And that's a bias. Immediate gratification bias. Choose alternative that offer immediate reward and avoid immediate cost. Sometimes you choose this, and that is by itself is a bias, okay? Anchoring effect. Anchoring effect, fixating on initial information and ignoring subsequent information. You try to hang into initial information and you forget about the rest of the information. Selective perception. You choose only what that you feel good about it. Selecting, organizing, and interpreting events based on decision makers' biases perception. Confirmation biases, seeking out information that reaffirm past choices and discounting contradictory information. Framing biases, selecting and highlighting certain aspects of situation while ignoring other aspects. You try to put a frame for that decision. Availability bias, losing decision-making objective by focusing on the most recent event. Representation bias, drawing analogies and seeing identical situation when it's not exist. You said this happened, but it doesn't happen, okay? Random bias, creating unfounded meaning out of random event. Sunk cost error, forgetting that current action cannot influence past event and relate only to the future consequences. Therefore, it doesn't affect the past, affect only the future. That's what we mean by sunk cost. Self-serving bias, taking a quick credit for success and blaming outside factors for failures, okay? Hindsight bias, mistakenly believing that an event could have been predicted once the actual outcome is known or after the fact. After the fact happened, you said, oh, I told you that. I know that's going to happen. Okay, that's after the fact. Overview of managerial decision making. Managers' decisions making process is affected by 4 factors: decision making approach, type of a problem, decision making conditions, and the decisions making style. In addition, certain decision making error and biases may affect that process, as we discussed in the previous slide. This is very nice model talking the overview managerial decision making, where we have, this is decision making process. We have the type of a problem decision, well structured or program, unstructured, non-program, and decision making conditions, which is certainty, risk, uncertainty, and this affect the decision making process. And decision making process also affected by decision-making approach, which is rationality, bounded rationality, intuition. And also we have the decision maker style, linear thinking style or non-linear. All these affect the decision process, and this will result into decision. However, this decision-making error and bias affect any type of decision-making, and the result, we choose the best alternative, maximizing the profit and satisfying, implementing, and evaluating. Okay. What about decision-making in the Arab world? We always discuss these implications in our MENA region, or mainly the Arab world, okay? Now, the tradition Arab decision-making process has been impacted by several factors. What are these? A system of networking and collective decisions making where the leader slash the manager consult with other group members to arrive at a decision that has been backing the community. We always have this in our Arab. This is the concept of shura is important. We always consult, which is good. It is not restricted to the political arena. It has its manifestation in different social institutions, including the family and business organization. Now, the consultative style, which is a shura, seems to be widespread in Arab organization. Okay. Guideline, effective decision making in today's world, guideline for making effective decisions, understand culture differences. In some cases, there is no one best way to make decisions. The best way may depend on values, attitudes, and beliefs that prevailing in a specific culture. Know when it is time to stop. Good decision makers are not afraid to change their minds. They do not become attached to one course of thinking. Use effective decision-making process. This process has 6 characteristics. Focus on what's important. It is logical and consistent. Your decision has to be logical and consistent, okay? It acknowledges both subjective and objective thinking and blend analytical with intuitive thinking. It requires only as much information and analysis as is necessary to resolve a particular dilemma. It encourages and guides the gathering of alternative information and information opinion. It is straightforward, reliable, easy to use, and flexible. Build an organization that can spot the unexpected and quickly adapt to the change environment. Carl Wick calls such organization highly reliable organization, or HROs, and says they share 5 habits. These are HROs organization, they have 5 or they share 5 habits. Are not tricked by their success. Don't be tricked by success if you made, good in some years, okay? Defer to the expert on the front line. Try to depend on experts, especially in the front line. Let unexpected circumstances provide the solution. Embrace complexity. the more complex it is. You should really appreciate that. Anticipate, but also recognize their limits. You have always to be recognizing that you have a limitation. Any decisions has limitation depending on resources, depending on what you have, budget and other stuff. This will conclude our chapter for today, which is chapter 6 about decision making. And as usual, I'm going to take you through my board here to give you a chance to capture that word. Okay, this is what we discussed, Management 301, and I'm going to post it for you as well so that you will enhance it and scan it and use it as a reference. Thank you very much, and you have a good day or evening.